Hi everyone, today we got a pretty choppy session here. You can see we tried to go higher a couple of times. Again, that 597.63 level continues to be very, very important. High post NVIDIA, high yesterday, and then high again today. Did get above it briefly, immediately pulled back below it, and then pulled back all the way to the 591 level. Obviously, this is being a little bit driven by the Tesla move down, but even prior to all of the nonsense that we got today, you can see this was a key zone of resistance, and you could argue it is pretty interesting timing once again.
Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started.
So in news today, of course, we got Elon and Trump going at it on Twitter and in public, on TV, seemingly everywhere. They are at each other's throat now, with Elon leaving Doge, and now the gloves are off and they are going at it. Definitely interesting to see what's going on here. He said Elon went crazy when he threatened to take away stuff from his companies, but Elon has been publicly saying that we don't want subsidies, we don't want the government picking favorites. He's said that for a long time. So I don't really believe Donald Trump in this case. It seems like Elon is the one with the more level head in this case. And then you got Elon coming out and saying things like, "Make my day" on Twitter. He also said things like potentially Trump is in the Epstein files, which could be interesting. A whole bunch of Twitter spats, and what did this lead to? Tesla going down about 14%. Making an enemy out of the sitting US president is generally not a good idea. And you can see that Epstein accusation, absolutely not what you want to see. Trump with Epstein there. Is that actually true? I think that remains to be seen, but it is a fairly good reason why that information has not come out yet. He did promise to release that stuff while he was running, and then he probably found out there was stuff about him he didn't want getting out. So here we are. Two of the most powerful people in the world, previously friends seemingly a day ago, are now at each other's throat. And I also love this picture here. Elon seems like the guy who's totally in control of things, and Trump seems a little bit deranged in this case. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. In terms of markets, markets do not like this. Absolutely not. Moving over to fear and greed, we actually stepped up to a 58 here from a 54. A little bit of a step higher despite the moves here. Some of that sell did not come through. Some of that's after hours. So still extreme fear, but you're not seeing that bigger pullback quite yet. Strength, no movement. Breadth continues to very slowly grind lower. Put call ratio elevating quite a bit here today. Is this the start of a bigger swing higher? It seems like it could be the case. Volatility also stepping up just a little bit. Safe haven demand chopped around, but now it's starting to move lower. Junk bonds coming back down to earth after that big spike on the yield spread there, but now we're back into greed, so a little bit more calm there in the bond market. Moving over to the economic calendar here, you can see ECB did cut their interest rates. I do believe we should follow suit. We'll see if that comes through or not. Initial jobless claims a little bit hot. Makes sense why markets did not love that. Non-farms productivity not great there either. Atlanta Fed GDP way lower than expectations. This seems to be a little bit more in line with their previous, not quite as bad, but still not great. And then for tomorrow, this is the big one for sure. Do we get a slight step on the unemployment rate? That is extremely dangerous for markets. That would give a little bit of a shock to markets, in my opinion. So big numbers tomorrow. The ADPs were already not great earlier. If this comes in worse than expectations, that could be a major mover for markets. Moving over to charts here, you can see we did get a pretty decent pullback down about 0.5%. Momentum back to bearish. RSI back below the SMA. Bigger breakdown here. This is kind of what we were fearful of. You can see it here where you get a big step up, big step back down below the SMA, and that leads to a bigger continuation here. Does that follow through over the next couple days? That is what we are waiting to see. We don't know for sure quite yet. You did see a little bit of volume coming through on this here. That's also not super great. And then you can see it on the hourly chart like we talked about. Bigger move higher. This seems like a key level. And now we've pulled back to this kind of intermediate trend line. You got a bigger one below it. 200 still in there, holding as potential support. And then looking at your levels here, you can see 591 is a critical level, came down to that zone, found a little bit of support, and then we ended up bouncing a little bit after hours. Do we come back up, get a lower high setup, and then a continuation through? If 591 goes, your next level is that 585 level where we were just a couple of days ago. But also, if it gets through that level, that is a structural break that we have on this kind of rising wedge pattern, which continues to tighten. I thought this was maybe a bullish triangle, but it looks a lot more like a rising wedge now, which is a bearish pattern. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you can see we did not get a break below that 4-hour trailing stop right now. That is 589.79. We did touch that second ATR band and then pull back. Still technically bullish conditions though, so waiting to see if this pulls back a little bit more. But looking at the hourly chart here just for a second, this does show much more bearish conditions. You got the trailing stop now up there at 599.84. We broke through that trailing stop here, 594.90. Broke through a couple of levels. That 144 EMA did hold at 591.33. That's in line with that level that we talked about. Look at that huge volume on the selling. Don't love to see that either. So this is starting to roll to the downside. We've seen it do that before, ultimately kind of stabilized in this 144 EMA zone and then rallied up. Is it going to do that one more time? That is what we have to wait and see over the next day or two. Maybe the unemployment data is what pushes us through that level and then we see a bigger spike down. That would be very interesting tomorrow. Moving over to the NASDAQ, same kind of setup here. I added some trend lines. You got a clear marked top at this level here. Not sure why this is so off, but on the hourly chart we'll take a look at it. But either way, clear top here, rising wedge style pattern, and then you can see it here on the hourly chart, same kind of structure clearly between these two lines marking that rising wedge. You have probably one push in here. Hopefully we get just one more continuation. I'll probably exit if we do get a touch of this level up here around this kind of 532 area. That's the hope. Get one more push off of this zone. We are still holding higher lows and higher highs. You could argue a little bit more bullish on the tech sector here. On a relative basis, it does look a little better. And then you can see that next level, 538.28. You could argue kind of 530 is an interesting zone. That was the high back here. That's the level I was watching too, 529.68. And then we did push through there, did get above that zone from yesterday, and then immediately rejected straight down candles. Again, this is going to be pretty heavily driven by Tesla, but the momentum is bearish. The RSI is bearish. You can see the daily momentum also stepping back to bearish. Does this have a little bit more in it? I'm hoping we get probably one more swing. I'll probably look to exit if we do get it. Otherwise, if we break through this zone here, right around this kind of 522 area, this structure here, then we're looking for a bigger sell. That next level is going to be that 509.74 area, which could lead to quite a bit more downside if this structure breaks. Moving over to the NASDAQ here, we're right at my buy price, almost to the penny here at 532.76. We bought it on the upswing here. Clearly should have taken some profits today. That was the original plan, and then my alerts were not on, so I had to reset those, and I missed a lot of this sell, which was not a good look. But we're back into bearish conditions here. 532.04 is now your resistance area, which is pretty close to my max profit on those calls. Expecting to see this swing back up. I want to see one more, probably to this 528 area. Maybe we get a little bit of a lower high continuation. Again, maybe unemployment data is what pushes us through here, but definitely bearish conditions on that hourly chart. And then looking at the 4-hour, we're still hanging in there, 522.47, pretty much that same level we talked about on the previous chart. That is your support right now. This is still bullish conditions on the 4-hour. If that changes, I will definitely be out of my long position. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, these actually were a pretty different story here. You got the Dow going down about a quarter, not too bad, in the same kind of zone, right at the trend line here, definitely interesting. Still cannot get above 426.20, clean resistance there, momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Still looks like a topping pattern, but look at the Russell. The Russell managed to stay positive, just 9 cents, through wicks to the lows. The low of day was all the way down to 207, so it did go quite a bit lower during the session, but then it bounced, and then in the after hours found a little bit of strength. 208.22 continues to hold, so that was a nice little surprise here. Russell not being as affected by the spat on Twitter, and hopefully the unemployment data holds up here so that the Russell can still hold in this zone. Moving over to the Mag 7 here, I just wanted to highlight how much of a kind of rug pull style move this was. Absolutely big move down, 2.26%. Tesla obviously being a huge driver of that move, momentum bearish, RSI bearish, but again, we've been watching this 315 level. Big wicks to that level, could not get above it, immediately rejected from there. Is this actually being driven by news events, or is this the elites playing tricks on us? Hard to say, but it is. Clean topping pattern a couple of days ago, and then today you get a big news event that drives this lower down to 305.25. So something to consider. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. If this breaks down, obviously markets are going to go with it. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple continues to be stuck in this pattern. Lower high setup, pretty big move. I would expect this to go to at least 193.96, so expecting more bearishness here from Apple. Microsoft does not care at all, going straight to the moon, up 0.82%. Momentum stepping back to bullish, already overbought. This is all-time highs now, well above that level for Microsoft. So big move there, continues to rally, continues to accelerate to the upside. Super bullish there for Microsoft. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, this was the one. Again, this did look like a topping pattern. We'd been saying it. I didn't think it would be anything like this, down 14.25%. Absolutely massive volume there. Almost 300 million shares traded. Huge sell right to the level 280. Right now, caught a little bit of a bounce back up to 284. Is this the zone where you want to start potentially stepping back in on Tesla? Probably not. Probably want to see some kind of stabilization in here. Do we go all the way back down to this kind of 214 area? That could be interesting. But for now, this is a high, low, potentially lower low down here. That would be interesting, down in the 160 area. And structurally, this is not great, right? You have a clean breakout here, breakdown of the structure here, move to those trend lines, retest that structure, bigger breakdown. Trend support is down here around the 200 area. If we do get there, that's probably a nice, interesting opportunity. But for now, not great on Tesla. And then you got NVIDIA also continuing to struggle at that 140.76 level. We've been here for a couple of days. We did close back below it here, back below 140 at 399, 139.99. Your next support is that 130.35 level. Got the 21 EMA in there as well at 132.41. Moving over to Broadcom and Meta here, you got some of these market leaders, the ones that were leading us higher, hesitating today, down about 0.5% for Meta. And about 0.5% here for Broadcom as well. Not anything major. Obviously, it's been a massive run. Is this finally the top? I would say probably not for Broadcom. This is all-time highs. I think this has a little bit more in it to some of these structural zones. Let's extend this one out. We did this yesterday. Right in here makes sense. Kind of this 280 area. That's what we talked about yesterday as well. And then Meta, is this the zone? Do we get a high, lower high in here? Maybe. We're already overbought on the RSI, so you have lower price with a flat RSI read. Not what you want to see. Clear divergence there. So something to watch for on that. Not the same story here on Broad. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, both of these selling off, a little bit of an everything sell, so that is not great. Staples down 1%, discretionaries 2.5%. Again, this was a topping pattern. We got a big acceleration here through the 210 level, back down to 209, got the 200 SMA in there at 208. Do we start to push through this structure here? That remains to be seen. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. This looks terrible on discretionaries. Looking for some gap fills back here to 202. How much more in it is there? I think there's probably quite a bit, especially if this structure starts to break tomorrow. Moving over to market breadth, really no changes here. 20-day down a little bit, back below the 50 line, but still in this kind of same zone that we've been in. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Same thing here on 50-day in this same zone. We are below the 21 EMA. That's interesting. It's finally caught up, pulled back in time. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Does this start to accelerate down a little bit here? I think we're getting pretty close to where that could happen if it is going to. Moving over to bonds, J&K did pull back a little bit, nothing crazy, still in the same range, no major movements over the last couple of weeks. J&K does not seem to move a whole lot. Occasionally you get big sells, but for now we're kind of locked in here. TLT moving a little bit higher, momentum still bullish, RSI still bullish, and I still believe this is a solid base in here, looking for this to continue up to that 89.16 level. Moving over to the VIX. The VIX has finally shown some signs of life after basically a week and a half of straight down price action. We did pull back to that 1850 level. Do we push through here back to these kind of 25 to 28 zone? Think that remains to be seen, but you got a clean double bottom, got a little bit of a base, momentum stepping back to bullish, RSI back above the SMA there. So showing signs of life. It seems like this is time to start being out of equities or getting short on equities. Moving over to my accounts, you can see I was down a little bit on the day. Of course, I was bullish going into the day. On the Russell here, you can see that I did roll out to 207 for tomorrow. A little bit risky play there. With the unemployment data, I think we'll be okay, but honestly, I'd probably take this off if I had the chance to do it again, but we're in it now. We'll see how it does for tomorrow. And then you can see the Qs down a little bit less than 1%. Still have the covered call there, a little bit at my buy price. You can see it is hanging in there, but the after hours were pretty much right at it. think we'll be okay. I want to see one more swing on this. I'll probably try to take the profits on those shares if I can, if we do get a push to that upper level, but that's what I'm looking for. Want to take the profits on the shares if possible, but watching that unemployment data very closely. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the Twitter spat between Elon and Trump. What team are you on? Put it down in the comments. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.